It's 8 on the nose right here in the capital city, Nairobi. This is K24 This Morning. My name is Jeff Mota. Karibu sana. It's time for your newspaper review. If you're just joining us for the first time, we look at the big stories making headlines and get some much-needed analysis and just ponder upon these issues, even as we look forward to what these headlines might bring moving forward. Once again, my name is Jeff Mota. You can get me at I am Jeff Mota on Twitter or at K24TV. WhatsApp number scrolling at the bottom of the screen. If you have any thoughts, comments, any feedback that you want to send to us, you can do it there as well. And even as you join us, in case you haven't gotten yourself a copy of your People Daily, you can get that straight to your phone. It's only 10 shillings and it's brought to you by the People Daily and Safaricom. And the number that you need is star 550 star 4 hash. Once again, that number, star 550 star 4 hash. Dial that number, get yourself a copy of your People Daily, brought to you by the PD and Safaricom. The beauty about it is that you don't need any data for this on your phone. You don't need to download another app in order to download this particular copy of your daily. All you need is the number star 550 star 4 hash. Dial that number and get yourself a copy of your People Daily, even as we look at the big stories therein. That's where we always start right here. Let's look at the front page of the PD. EACC, KEMSA scandal will shock Kenyans. Raila takes on Ruto for accusing ODM of complicity in COVID-19 corruption allegations, says special audit was the best way to tackle graft claims at Medical Supplies Agency. As you can see, there are key people of interest. We have Deputy President William Ruto, the Commission CEO Twalib Mbarak, and opposition leader Raila Odinga right there on the front page of the PD, talking about how they feel is best to actually tackle this menace of corruption and what's been happening at the Medical Supplies Agency. That story can be found in your copy of your People Daily on page 7 therein. Also on page 4 of your PD, weak and ineffective, the curse of the Senate. As the country marks 10 years since the promulgation of the Constitution, it's looking back and looking at the winners from what we've gotten so far, some of the gains we've made, some of the losses we've experienced in those 10 years, and really what way forward now, even as we stare at a possible referendum. Is that the way to go? Do we need more time for the implementation of the Constitution as is? That's a question that's been discussed even as we approach that particular date, and we can get some insights on that particular issue and the Senate as well on page 4 of your People Daily today. Also the front page of the PD, Treasury wants MPs recalled to approve cash for counties. Even as, counties look at a possible cash crunch at this particular point in time. And as we wait for the Senate to allocate revenue to different counties, of course, Treasury looking for other ways to make sure there's no impasse in terms of operations at county level. And that story is on page 2 of your People Daily this morning. As I told you, can get the PD straight to your phone. It's only 10 shillings to do that. And you can dial the number star 550 star 4 hash, and you get it to your phone courtesy of the People Daily and Safaricom. Let's look at the front page of the Daily Nation now. Raila takes heat in COVID scandal. Current stand on KEMSA theft differs sharply with position taken on past cases. ODM leader yesterday said the party would not defend anyone found to have benefited from COVID funds, but a statement chastising the media and demanding an audit before criminal investigations start has been widely criticized right there. And of course, this really is the eye of the storm with a country that's trying to, get to grips with the pandemic as of now, and that same money that's supposed to be used for that being pilfered, and a scandal in the offing right there. And as they're saying on the front page of the Daily Nation, former PM Raila Odinga taking the heat for his statement and stance on that particular story. You can find that in your copy of the Daily Nation. Front page of the Standard, really same story right there, different angle to it. Raila's firm demand on funds probe. ODM leader insists on a professional audit of COVID-19 funds usage and makes it clear his party does not condone corruption. Neither will it defend culprits irrespective of who they are. That's part of his statement right there. You can find that story, of course, in your copy of your Standard this morning. As look at that, Kenya's top generals promise to Kenyans. A man whose typical day revolves around prayer, fitness, and office work. General Kiboshi, the man who took the helm at the KDF, fell in love with the military in Nyeri High School when he encountered KDF personnel in the area. Right in here, they give a story of the man who's at the helm and what he plans to do as he moves forward in that particular capacity. You can find the story in your copy of your Standard this morning. Also in the Standard, question of blood and treatment of COVID-19. Local experts join search for coronavirus treatment utilizing a decades-old method that includes the use of plasma from a recovered patient to treat someone battling the ailment. That story is in detail in your copy of your Standard today, as you get the details right there. And in your Financial Standard, Naivas's secret: selling stake in family jewel kept us in the game. At a time when the retail industry in Kenya has really gotten major body blows, especially for local players, Naivas seems to have found the secret on how to stay afloat and be profitable right there. And they're talking about it in your copy of your Financial Standard today. You can get the details right there. Finally, front page of The Star. Why Raila is under fire over COVID-19 billions. Flip-flopping, The Star says. Former PM wants a special audit on corona funds before prosecution. And some people saying this is unlike his stance before. And that story can be found as well in your copy of your Star today. So as you can see, really front and center is one story, the different angles to it, and the different utterances and statements being made as far as KEMSA is concerned, as far as the usage of the COVID-19 funds is concerned. And that will also be our mainstay right here on the show as we discuss these issues. My panel ready and very able to discuss these issues of the day. And you want your feedback, you can get me at I am Jeff Mote or at K24 TV. Welcome. This is the newspaper review. Good morning. And welcome back. Once again, if you want to send us a WhatsApp message, the WhatsApp number will be scrolling at the bottom of your screen. You can send us any message you want to from that particular number. In studio, joining me on a Tuesday, every single Tuesday, here like clockwork, public policy analyst Arnold Maliba. Good morning.
Morning, Jeff.
Karibu sana, welcome to the show.
Asante.
Also joining us on the conversation via Skype, we have Justice Maina. He's a governance expert. Morning, Mr. Maina.
Morning, Jeff.
Karibu sana, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Okay, let's get right to it, because very few times do you have a headline that actually, piques your interest and has you raise eyebrows. Arnold, when we have the EAC saying that the KEMSA scandal will shock Kenyans, we're really at a point in time as a country where really nothing would shock us. We've almost seen it all when it comes to theft of public funds and corruption. What do you think would be under the hood if you actually looked there with this particular statement?
Well, until we see exactly where this ends, probably this statement is just one of those hollow statements they've made, knowing too well that EACC, DCI, and so many other agencies that have been fighting corruption in this country have actually been fighting corruption by way of spectacle and drama. Like we no longer talk about Kamata Friday. It was so common, and we thought at that particular time that was the strategy that would work. I do not know exactly why somebody would say that this scandal will shock Kenyans. As in, we've been here, we've seen Anglo leasing, a third of an economy, as in a golden bag, almost a third of an economy going down. We've seen golden bag. I've never seen a scandal that is actually inherited by other people. As in, there was the Kanu regime that was working around it, and then the NAC regime picked over and they inherited it and moved on with it. So as in this country, people can actually even inherit a scandal.
Right.
So I do not necessarily know what he means that Kenyans will be surprised.
Right.
We've seen much more money go away. What we will only be surprised is that if he's able to jail these guys who are involved.
Right.
So largely, I still do not find the reason why he will say that. And of course, you've looked at all the newspapers, like you mentioned. Everyone else is actually pointing fingers at Raila. Perhaps it's important to actually point here that Raila is a diplomat. He is actually the African Union High Representative for Infrastructure. So he took up a diplomatic posting, and therefore you expect him to actually have some mannerism of a diplomat. Even if he's actually trying to say something, he might not necessarily say it in the way we are used to him. Two, we should not even ask him anything, except for those of us who went with him to Uhuru Park on 30th of January 2018. Otherwise, we cannot honestly forego our God-given and constitutional right of active citizenship. There's a reason why the first 4 words in the preamble in the Constitution says, "We, the people of Kenya." And at the end also, it also talks about adopt and does everything for ourselves and for the generations to come. So there is the place of active citizenship. We cannot outsource it to a few other people.
And we'll be talking about that in a bit, because it seems like that role was largely taken by a former PM, and then he stepped out of that. There seems to be a vacancy. But I want to get to Justice very quickly on this one. Same question I want to bring to you on this, because we're dealing with a man, when I talk about this particular person, I mean CEO Twalib Mbarak from the intelligence service, a man who's very measured in his words, even when he speaks. So when he actually says that this scandal will shock Kenyans, should we brace ourselves for something really big? Because he never makes such utterances. Could this be the big one?
Well, good morning once again. I do not think that Kenyans will be shocked by anything that will come from the EACC, because I think Kenyans have been treated to the high-octane drama of corruption. And of course, I think the tragedy here is that the politicians who initially should have been the defenders of public good and interest have suddenly turned into, like I heard somebody say this morning, the bodyguards of corruption in this country. I think, well, I know he has got all the good intentions to maybe bring something that he imagined is going to shock Kenyans. But I don't think there's nothing that is coming out that is going to shock Kenyans, because when you begin to see the list of those who have been allegedly got in the till of the ministry and the KEMSA corruption scandal, where I want to term the ministry and the KEMSA in 2020 as the bedroom of corruption in terms of the misuse or use of COVID funds. So I do not think that Kenyans, there's something that would shock us, because when you see the directorship of some of these companies who have been allegedly given tenders to supply oxygen to KEMSA, it is who in this country, it is the peers of some of the senior politicians, it is the cousins and brothers and the friends of who is who in this country. So I think, yes, maybe we will be a little bit shocked, but not. I don't think it would be groundbreaking. I think it would be business as usual. We expect that the people who have been supposed to have been defending the public good, we suspect that most of them have turned to the agents of grand corruption in this country. They are perpetuating, they are living. We do not want to imagine that that even beyond naming of names, there will be something big that will happen. We believe very strongly that there will still be the usual gerrymandering in terms of prosecution. The people will be chosen to be prosecuted. I think the list is, we do not believe that some of these people will be touched. Some of these people in this country are untouchable. The names will be out there, but I suspect very strongly and believe that they will be untouched.
And even as we talk about that, this is a story that we've seen not only on the front pages of our dailies, but also on the floor of the House as far as Parliament is concerned. And let's take it there for a moment. Now, the Parliamentary Health Committee has summoned the Kenya Medical Supplies Authority CEO, Dr. Jonah Manjari, and his officials to answer to claims of loss of COVID-19 funds, with a public outcry of the infamous scandal involving the loss of an approximate 40 billion Kenya shillings, raising by the day. Various leaders have called for speedy investigations to unravel this particular scam.
The Parliament's Health Committee will on Thursday grill the embattled Kenya Medical Supplies Authority CEO Jonah Manjari and his officials in an investigation aimed at unraveling the alleged loss of COVID-19 funds. The scandal has made headlines almost every day for the better part of the month, eliciting mixed reactions among the leaders and the public.
Waita KEMSA siku ya Alhamisi tutakutana na ile board yake na management, na kuna yale maswali ambayo tumewauliza wawe majitayarisha, ili tukipatana na wao Alhamisi tutakuwa tukiuliza haya maswali. Tutataka kujua ukweli, kwa sababu yale maneno watu wamesema ni mengi sana, lakini tunataka kujua ukweli wa mambo, na kama kuna pesa imepotea, ningetaka kuhakikishia Wakenya kwamba hiyo wale watu ambao wako responsible lazima kila mtu atabeba mzigo wake. Kwa hivyo kwa sasa ni uchunguzi tunafanya na tunaendelea kufanya, na Alhamisi ndio tutakutana na wao.
Over 40 billion shillings is aimed to have been misappropriated, with relatives of notable persons alleged to be beneficiaries of shady deals at the agency leaving leaders divided, and others calling for the DCI and EACC to kick off investigations.
The thievery and the looting in KEMSA and in the Ministry of Health. As leaders, we condemn the theft, we condemn the thievery, we condemn it in the strongest terms possible. That today, if you go to most of our hospitals, they will always ask you to buy medicine from outside the hospital, because the hospitals don't have medicine, and yet a few bureaucrats that sit in high places of power, a few bureaucrats in Nairobi who sit in echelons of power are pocketing money that are meant for these poor people. Those people ought to be ashamed of themselves.
ODM leader Raila Odinga was on Monday forced to issue a statement on his stance over KEMSA's shocking allegations after pressure from the deputy president's side that alleged that ODM was a beneficiary.
I want to ask Kenyan people, Stop blaming the Right Honorable Raila Odinga. Raila Odinga was not elected in parliament. He's not a senator. Members of parliament, take your role and defend Kenyans. You cannot keep saying Raila has gone to bed with Jubilee. Raila Odinga, to the best of my knowledge, did not win the election. He's not an MCA, he's not a senator, he's not a president, he's a mwananchi. So this time is a role. Parliaments don't sleep. Parliamentarians don't sleep on your job.
In the statement, Raila Odinga denied defending looters of COVID money, saying, and I quote, "The Orange Democratic Movement's record of commitment to fighting corruption and safeguarding public resources is well documented. ODM never did and never will tolerate corruption in all its manifestations, no matter who is involved." The statement continues to note that the government needs to conduct a thorough and urgent audit of all the funds that have been put at the disposal of various state agencies, departments and ministries to fight the pandemic, with a view to establishing the facts on usage of such resources. The scandal has led to a public uproar, with civil societies holding demonstrations to push the government to investigate and jail the culprits. Giverson Minor, K24.
Well, there you have it, of course. A lot of heat being generated by this particular scandal, the stories and the utterances being made by various leaders. In studio, also joined by East Africa Center for Law and Justice Executive Director Joy Mdivo. Good morning.
Good morning, Jeff.
Welcome to the show.
Asante sana.
Good stuff. We're talking about this particular front page of the PD and the utterance made by the EACC about KEMSA and the fact that whatever they will reveal will shock Kenyans. Quick question I was asking right across the panel. Are we possible of being shocked at this particular point as a nation? We seem to have seen it all. With the scandals that have come our way, at this point, there's nothing new you could possibly pull out of the hat.
In fact, I think the shock we were waiting for is that this time round, COVID would be administered in a manner that would be entirely above board.
That there wouldn't be a scandal.
Yes, but unfortunately, it just played right up to our expectations that, you know what, there is no time you'll mention money in Kenya and you don't have opportunists taking advantage of the same. And the problem with this particular situation is it comes at a time when our economy is crumbling, it comes at a time when we are fighting a pandemic, then it comes at if we are to believe the reports that are going around now, it comes with people who are already in privilege. They're not the ones being hardest hit by the effects of COVID. I mean, they're not guys who would go without a meal because of the prevailing economic situation. So when you see such things, it makes you despair of, forget even about the politics or anything of it, just the humanity of it. How do you sleep at night knowing that there are people somewhere who are dying of hunger, who are not getting, the doctors who are not getting PPEs, there are people whose lives are literally, who are you to sacrifice your fellow Kenyans' lives so that you can live more comfortably? And that's why I think I join with what Justice was saying earlier. This one won't be a shocker. Even when they tell us who is involved, the shock might come if we actually have prosecutions, we actually have convictions. That will be a shock. Right. But in terms of naming and shaming, tumeaona, tumeazoea.
Arnold, as we talk about kuzoea, the naming and shaming process of this particular act and how it usually plays out, we're at a point in time where we have a president who always says he's, going to fight corruption. That's going to be his legacy. He'll unite the country and fight corruption. Those are the two things he wants us to remember him for. But right here we are in a situation where if there was ever a time he could prove that, forget all the other scandals, this is the one where he would prove that he actually is going to fight corruption. But even from the front, he's been largely silent on this particular one.
The irony about the KEMSA scandal is, or rather the COVID gate, is that government is silent, except for, like I've always said, there are three arms to government. There's Jubilee A, Jubilee B, and of course Jubilee C. So Jubilee C is speaking very loudly. That is ODM, quite loudly and elaborately about this. But Jubilee A, where we expect them to lead this particular war, are quite very silent. The president is uncharacteristically silent. We have seen him threaten in the past, and he's actually, this time around, he's not saying anything. It's only ODM that is actually falling over themselves, giving statements. The SG is giving a statement, and people think probably Sifuna is speaking for himself. And then the party leader himself shows up and reinforces what he has said. Going back to what all of us actually knew, that Sifuna is not his own man, and of course when he says something, is actually speaking for someone else. But be that as it may, we must actually point out one thing, that Somalia yesterday jailed the Republic of Somalia, a country which by all intents and purposes is actually a failed state. Yesterday showed us light on how to deal with graft. They did it very fast. But you know, guys within legal fraternity, including the set here, will actually tell you that we are a country that embraces the rule of law and the other things. But one of those things you have to realize, Jeff, is that in this country, we love moralizing corruption so much. So we want to appeal to their moral consciousness and everything else, that people should be human. Why can't we start dealing with corruption legally? We, as a people, are not even serious about good governance. Good governance, just as leadership, is not one man's burden. So we cannot outsource it to a few people, to an individual, and expect them to actually act out well for us. So long as we moralize people appealing to their moral consciousness and such, when we do not have a national moral code that all of us have actually sworn to uphold, it's going to be very, very difficult. So it's for us to actually move away from moralizing this thing to actually dealing with it legally. That will then help us probably move forward. Otherwise, everyone is saying that you're going to get a curse, you're going to do this. You know, those things really don't matter. They don't hold. Some of these guys don't even believe in those curses. Right. So well, how are you? As in, when shall we see justice done? Because by then we have seen the people, quote unquote, who are evil, always prospering. The same people who have been robbing us continue to rob from us. After they've robbed from us, their children pick up the trade and keep on doing that. The other bit of it that is also very bad about this thing is that instead of focusing on the war, as it were, there's also the Jubilee rivalry that is playing out. We have seen the Tanga side now coming out vocally about this. So they're trying to play out, including the person of the deputy president, the second in command. And God forbid if anything that were to happen to number one, he is the president, a substantive president, telling us that for the first time, he will not be blamed for something that has gone off. There are so many ways to interpret that. But rather than us focusing and fighting this war, and I'm actually thinking because the deputy president also wants to play politics with this, is the reason why the president has left
the free
Raila Odinga to actually come up and fight for this, to fight out this. Okay. But I must summarize on this by saying that Parliament is the weakest link in our democracy. We took away power from everybody else. We did away with the imperial presidency. We tried to take away a lot of power that was being misused and lumped it in Parliament, knowing that Parliament is a representative of the people. That at any particular time when you look at Parliament, you see a nation. Yet those guys have failed terribly.
But until the same ones are saying that we want to, effectively legislate and play an oversight role, but the executive keeps overreaching. We are trying, but we can't.
It's not the executive. People overreach if you allow them to overreach. The National Assembly has allowed itself to get into bed with the executive.
They should not even be complaining.
And that's why they're in this situation.
Who has overreached? We gave them the constitution, the power. When the executive goes to Parliament, the other day the CS for Interior went to the Senate, and senators who had been persecuted, falling over themselves, running to actually appease that man. It is Parliament that does not know the power. Probably we gave the wrong people power. We took away a lot of power from the presidency, put it into Parliament, knowing too well that here is the voice of the people. But those guys, I can tell you that an ordinary county assembly is much better than the Parliament of Kenya. There is much more oversight that goes on in county assemblies than what goes in at the National Assembly.
Let me get Justice in on this one as well. Justice, because we're looking at a scenario where we need some independence to get to the bottom of this. Do you think the office of the EACC, the office of the DPP, even in this highly politically charged topic, which is now this particular scandal, and we're seeing the political angles come out, and you hear the DP talking about it, the former PM talking about it, parties taking sides on this. Do you feel that we have sufficient independence with these particular bodies to get to the bottom of this particular issue and prosecute successfully those who will be found culpable for these crimes?
Well, I think we have the machinery, we have the capacity, the software and the hardware to get to the bottom of this scandal. But what I doubt is whether the DCI and the DPP will be able to have the muscle and the sufficient independence to really go for the big fish. Definitely, you will see some characters in the name of Director KEMSA and some other, mid-level characters being, frog marched to court for prosecution. Definitely, you will see that. But I can guarantee that you will not see the big time, the godfathers of corruption being prosecuted. Definitely, those are the people. The players, the coaches will be sitting at the bench, but the players, we are watching the players, but the coaches will be sitting at the bench, and those are the characters who I guess and I bet will not be tagged. And the history is replete with characters, big time characters, politicians, MPs, all manner of political class who have, looked at this country tried. So I believe that we have the software, we have the hardware, we have the manpower, we will get to the bottom, but where we will miserably fail is when we make decisions as to who to prosecute and who not to prosecute. We will see the connection, we will be able to dot the I's and the T's.
Okay, there's a bit of a technical issue right there as we sort it out in terms of the connectivity right there.
But definitely, I don't believe some of these characters will be prosecuted because they are too close to some families. So I don't think that some of it. So I believe that the prosecution and the DCI, if were they to be given sufficient independence, were they to be given the political support, were they not to be intimidated, I believe they can do a good job. But the amount of intimidation, the amount of interference in terms of some of these institutions who are meant to prosecute and provide evidence, I don't believe they will play their ball. I believe they play this ball selectively. I believe there'll be a lot of gerrymandering. I believe there'll be a lot of selective prosecution. I don't believe that you will see some of these officers going for the big guns. I don't believe so.
Okay, and of course, we're taking your feedback as well at I am Jeff Mote and at K24 TV on Twitter. Hilary Ngasura saying, why can't DCI take over the investigation of this KEMSA matter? Do you expect MPs, some believed to be beneficiaries, and EACC to come up with solutions leading to arrests? It's a funny week later after expose. No one has been arrested, even as we talk about it. We also have Larry_Matoro. Lower your expectations and expect close to nothing from the KEMSA heist. They will walk free and show us a middle finger through those very agencies they investigate. This is Kenya. We are the ones who are going to pick up the pieces. Kila mtu ajitegemee. Okay, so that seems to be the public sentiment right now. Really, even as EACC says, we'll be shocked from what will come out. Very many people really not ready for anything shocking. They've seen it all, so it seems. You can get yours in at I am Jeff Mote or at K24 TV. Take a short break, and even as we come back after the break, it seems like the scandal has taken a political turn. 3 of the dailies right now talking about how Raila is taking an uncharacteristic turn in terms of his stance in fighting corruption and the COVID scandal. We discuss that and more. This is K24 This Morning.